Welcome back to Super Recaps. Today I will show you an action and comedy film from 2021 called Jolt. The movie's main protagonist is a girl called Lindy Lewis who has had serious anger issues ever since she was a child. She was eventually diagnosed with an intermittent explosive disorder, which means that she experiences sudden outbursts of anger after interacting with people. Growing up, Lindy went through a lot of treatments, never worked. She was even enlisted in the army to tire out her anger, but that didn't work either. After many failed experiments, her psychiatrist, Dr. Munchin, finally figured out a treatment. He gave her an electric shock vest. Since then, she has been using it to control her rage. But slowly, the device is becoming less and less effective. So, Dr. Munchin tells her that she needs to build a deep connection with someone and advise her to go on dates. Lindy is hesitant at first, but she ends up going on a date with an accountant called Justin. He seems like a decent guy, and the date starts fine, but when Justin tries to order food, the waitress keeps telling him the dishes he chose aren't available. This makes Lindy angry, but she tries to control herself. After that, she goes to the bathroom, where she overhears that same waitress insulting Justin. Lindy can't control her rage anymore, so she tries to use the shock vest, but it doesn't work, and she ends up attacking the waitress. She then runs away from the date without telling Justin. The following day, she asks Dr. Munchin to fix the shock device, and although he tries to fix it, he also informs her that the only way she can truly fix her disorder is by forming a strong connection with someone. Lindy thinks about his advice on her way back home, and she eventually decides to go on a date with Justin again. During the second date, they seem to hit it off almost instantly, and Lindy even opens up about her interest in photography. After the date, Justin drops her off at her place and tries to kiss her, but Lindy stops him because she's scared of hurting him. Justin comforts her, and she invites him inside. They start to get intimate, and despite seeing Lindy's shock vest, Justin is unbothered, and they end up sleeping with each other. The next morning, when Lindy wakes up, Justin surprises her by gifting her a camera, which makes her extremely happy. Justin then inquires about her vest, and Lindy decides to tell him the truth about her disorder. After that, Justin has to leave for work, but before leaving, he invites her to have dinner at his house later that night. Lindy then visits Dr. Munchin to express how happy she is with Justin. She tells him that she did not need to use the vest even once when she was with Justin, and she believes she might never need to use it again if the relationship goes well. Afterward, Lindy roams around the city and uses Justin's camera to take various pictures. In the evening, while she's getting ready for the date, Justin texts her saying he might be late. So she calls him for more information, but a detective picks up the phone and tells her that Justin has been murdered. Lindy hurries to the police station and asks about Justin. Detectives Vickers and Niven inform her that his dead body was found in a dumpster, but they don't seem that interested in solving the case, so Lindy decides to take matters into her own hand. Later, she attends his funeral and spends the day extremely depressed as she recalls the time they shared. Overwhelmed with emotions, Lindy loses control when she goes to see Dr. Munchin, and he is forced to sedate her. Once she awakens, she tells the doctor about Justin's murder. She also says that Justin only had one client called Barry, and Lindy suspects that he's the murderer. But Dr. Munchin is afraid that she might hurt someone, and he tells her not to get involved and to let the police handle it. However, Lindy doesn't listen to him and leaves the clinic in anger. To carry out her plan, Lindy first calls Detective Vickers and fools him into leaving the office. Once he has left, she sneaks into the evidence room and steals Justin's belongings. She also finds his address on his ID card and visits his place, where she tries to look for clues. As she's looking around, she gets a call from Detective Vickers, who expresses his disappointment about her breaking into the police station, but he wants to help her. So he warns her that Niven is on her way to the apartment to arrest her. So Lindy rushes to leave the apartment, but Niven has already arrived, and she thinks that Lindy is a suspect and wants to arrest her. Lindy then attacks the detective and manages to escape in Justin's sports car. In the following scene, a chase scene ensues between Lindy and the detective, but Lindy gets away while the detectives crash into a truck. The next day, she goes to an electronics store and asks them to take her to a hacker. They introduce her to a hacker called Andy, who hacks into Justin's phone as requested, but all the data has already been wiped out from the phone except for some information about a gun dealer called Barry Kirkparky. Lindy thanks Sandy and leaves her with the car keys as repayment. She then decides to visit Barry and sees that he manages an underground fighting club. She approaches him and immediately starts asking about Justin's murder, but Barry refuses to tell her anything and says that he will only give her the information information if she defeats his 3 best fighters. Lindy agrees to the deal and easily defeats the 3 men. Barry then asks her to come with him, but instead of giving her the information, he orders his men to kill her. This doesn't bother Lindy as she easily beats them all up and captures Barry. She tortures him until he finally reveals the truth. He explains that he works for a man called Gareth Faisal, and he is the one who murdered Justin. In the next scene, Detective Vickers is admitted to a hospital where Niven comes to inform him about Lindy's violent background. A few moments after she leaves, Lindy enters the room and thanks Vicker for warning her about Niven. She then tells him to arrest Gareth Faisal as he is the murderer, but the detective tells her that's not possible since they don't have any evidence. He then asks her why she's trying so hard for someone she barely knew. To this, Lindy replies that Justin was the only good person she met and had a connection. After hearing that, Vicker feels bad for her and gives her Faisal's address. At that moment, Niven shows up, but Lindy hits her and runs away. She then heads to Faisal's office building and requests to see Faisal, but the head of security, Delacroix, immobilizes her and takes her vest. He then kicks her out of the building and forces her into a car. During the drive, Lindy starts to lose control without her vest, and she tells the driver to stop the car, but she ends up attacking him after his refusal, which causes him to crash the car. Fortunately, Lindy escapes unharmed and goes to see Dr. Munchin. She tells him about everything and asks him to make another vest. After that, she returns to her apartment, but before going in, she notices that someone has broken in, so she decides to go through the window. Inside, she discovers that Faisal's men have attached a bomb to her apartment door. She carefully pulls the bomb apart and places it in her microwave instead of faking her death. She then goes to see Vickers, who now wants to arrest her as he believes she's a danger to herself. But soon, her apartment blows up, which distracts Vickers, and Lindy takes this opportunity to escape. Vickers is worried for her and calls her to convince her not to chase after Faisal, but Lindy refuses to listen as she knows the police won't arrest Faisal. She sneaks into Faisal's office building again, but Delacroix finds her and drags her to Faisal, who admits without any shame that he has killed many innocent people and that Justin isn't the only one. After hearing that, Lindy starts to lose control again, but Delacroix knocks her out. When she wakes up, she realizes Delacroix is trying to kill her by slowly draining her blood, but she manages to break free and tortures him until he tells her how to reach Faisal. She then rushes to the location. When she reaches Faisal, she discovers that someone has already killed him. Just then, Justin steps in and commends her for the job well done. Lindy is completely shocked to see him alive, and Justin reveals that he is a CIA agent. He faked his death just so they could use Lindy to get to Faisal, and he also reveals that Dr. Munchin works for them, and he is the one who recommended her for the job. After the revelation, Justin tries to kill her by activating her shock vest. Lindy falls to the ground but doesn't die as she has become immune to it. After standing up, she throws her purse at him, but just then, the bomb in her purse explodes and kills him. She immediately goes to Dr. Munchin and confronts him about using her. He apologizes and says that he had no clue about Justin's scheme. During their argument, Vicker and Niven show up, and they think that Lindy is about to kill the doctor, so they shoot her in the leg. But it turns out that she was just handcuffing him. They then take her to the hospital, where Vickers compliments her and asks her out. Lindy tells him that she will think about it. Once she is discharged from the hospital, Lindy goes back to her burnt apartment, where a mysterious woman shows up. She claims to be Justin and Munchin's boss, and she asks Lindy to work with them. The scene then shifts to the hacker, Andy, who is shocked to see that Lindy's payment to her was an expensive sports car. Thanks for watching. To support the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button and press the bell icon to get new video updates.